That was
like
March the 12th. Okay, we have approval of the agenda, and we are going to remove B, 5B, the 425 Main Street Housing Development. So could I get someone to, thank you, Councillor Beach, Councillor Bailey, thank you. Could I get first a mover on the agenda as amended? Councillor Rich, Councillor Evans, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, and we're going to start with our delegations. Is the Columbia Shuswap Regional District, Jody Pierce. Thanks for being here, Jody.
Thank you for being out here this afternoon. So I gave a presentation. Given that we have a number of new people that are new to what I call the regional district environment, this is the old news to you, the maybe a refresher for the rest of the meeting. So the Columbia Shuswap Regional District is not the taxing authority for the rural areas. We develop budgets for each of the established service areas within our regional district and provide that information to the surveyor of taxes in Victoria, who then incorporates that information onto the rural property tax notices along with provincial property taxes. And then we also provide that information to the local member municipalities within our regional district for their share of the taxes that then get added to the local municipalities taxes. As such, we don't have the ability to collect taxes at our city office or pull out rural tax notices. And we do not have one consistent bill rate for our taxpayers because if you live in Nicholson, which is a suburb area of rural Golden, you're contributing to the Nicholson Fire Department. You're not contributing to the area F Fire Department, which is on the North Shuswap. So there's a mill rate for every single service, but it's not a consistent one. And then regional districts do not have the ability to change the multiplier rates for each class of assessment. So whereas the municipality can change their multiplier rates so that there's more weight given to residential or more weight given to industrial, we don't have that ability. The province sets those. So it's important in how the taxes are allocated. Features of the regional district finance is its use of separate discrete funds for different regional district services. So every service that's provided by the regional district is accounted for separately using a dedicated service fund. The fund identifies the full cost to the regional district of providing the service, including a portion of the general overhead and administration where applicable. Services are governed by establishing service area bylaw. That bylaw defines how the service will be funded, whether that be tax on property values, parcel taxes, fees, etc. It establishes a maximum tax rate where applicable and possibly a termination date for the service. The maximum tax rate can be increased by 25% every 5 years without inspector municipality approval, however, increases beyond 25% or more often than every 5 years do require provincial approval. And so each year revenues specific to the service must be collected to pay the full costs. And then because the funds are discrete, revenues and costs specific to one service cannot be arbitrarily shifted or spread among other services. So essentially this means we have to account for each service provided by the CRSRD separately in accordance with legislation. Each services budget operates independently, meaning the taxes collected for that service can only be spent on that service. And ultimately, the Financial Services Department prepares, oversees, reconciles, and reports on over 114 individual budgets every year. The changes in assessment play a significant role in the allocation of taxes. The default for the Local Government Act is to allocate taxes on the basis of converted assessments. As the change in the converted assessment was highest in Golden and Sycamores, more of the tax burden for the region-wide taxes was allocated to those municipalities. The class multiplier is what determines the converted assessment. Residential, farm, and recreational are not-for-profit have a multiplier of 1.0. Regular commercial properties have a multiplication factor of 2.45. Industrial properties a factor of 3.4, and utilities a factor of 3.5. So the other factors at play can be the ratio of residential properties to other types of properties that exist in an area, and the number of new properties within a service area. In Sycamores, 91% of the tax base is residential, whereas in Area 8 or rural Sycamores, 89% of the tax base is residential. So you'll also note that the increase in the converted assessment in Area E is higher than the increase in the Sycamores. And this will be better described in the next slide. Where the increase in the residential assessment is less than the converted assessment, it is indicative of growth in the business or industrial assessments. And conversely, the opposite is true, and it means that the residential assessments grew more than the business or industrial assessments. So the chart that's on the screen in front of you shows the difference in the change in total assessment between from last year to this year, plus the change in converted assessment, which is your blue column, and the change in the residential assessment, which is the yellow column. So while in some areas the change in the residential assessment closely monitored or mirrored the change in the total assessment, in many cases it doesn't. And that could be a function of higher house prices or additional properties. 2025, our total budget from all of our different functions that we have is $63.7 million. So this slide shows the regional taxes collected by the CSRD from the District of Sycamores for services. So other than the administration cost and IT budget, costs are all allocated by default in the Local Government Act. The administration cost allocation is the costs for the CSRD administration building and its IT infrastructure. The allocation of these costs do not follow the default, but rather are weighted heavily towards the electoral areas, as the member municipalities have their own municipal buildings for council and administration. Recycling program tax requisition went down this year as the general manager for environment and utility was able to obtain a better rate for the marketing of recyclables, and that has allowed staff to decrease that tax rate. The solid waste closure tax requisition was to begin collecting taxes specifically for the closure of post-closure monitoring of landfills. The estimated liability for the closure of post-closure is approximately $55 million. The current reserve balance is $1.22 million. So this slide shows the rest of the taxes collected by the CSRD from the District of Sycamores for services. Most of the allocation of the requisition is based on the default of converted assessment under the Local Government Act. However, the rail trail has its own separate allocation as per the services establishment bylaw. The Shishwap SPCA and search and rescue are contribution bylaws, meaning we're not involved with their operations in any way other than to provide them an annual grant. The SPCA receives $12,000 annually, and search and rescue services receive $90,000, and RCM SAR receives $50,750. Emergency preparedness, snowfall control, weed control remains status quo with their respective services and not a significant increase in taxes. The district of Sicamous has opted out of Shuswap tourism along with the city of Seminar, and therefore the board has paused both the tourism and film commission functions at this time. This slide shows the overall tax requisition and the change to the average residential taxpayer. Because the change in the average residential property assessment was less than the change in the converted assessment, residential taxpayers will see a bigger decrease than the overall decrease. So the overall decrease is 3.2%, is that number circled in green. But the amount that the actual average residential taxpayer would be 4.2%, which is lower down on the slide. Or an average of $10.50 to the average residential. Looking at the Sicamous Arena, the tax requisition for the Sicamous Arena has increased by 1.97%, or just under $12,000. We will be applying for a grant to the Green Municipal Fund for feasibility study and a retrofit. This is part one of a two-part grant process, and we need to undertake the feasibility study in order to apply for a larger retrofit grant that can potentially fund replacement of the roof. This year, there's $161,667 coming out of reserve on some capital projects. There have been no significant increases in the $161,000 will assist in funding these projects. As mentioned previously, we'll be applying for a grant for the retrofit. We are looking at doing some downstairs reconfiguration, relocation of the fitness center, some heating and cooling units, other minor projects. So looking at for a summary of expenditures, the budget for repairs has decreased because this different project in the prior year was completed during the year. And the rail corridor bylaw received 11% in July 2017 to establish and borrow funds for the rail trail, acquisition of the rail trail. It specifies the apportionment of the tax requisition, which I mentioned to you earlier. The 30% of the total tax requisition comes from the district of Sicamous. So this slide is from page 18 of the Shuswap North Okanagan Rail Trail Maintenance Standard that was presented to the Governance Advisory Committee in November 2022 and was approved by the CSRB board in February 2023. The CSRB portion of the $380,000 of maintenance is 46%, or approximately $175,000 in 2022 dollars, and that was for maintenance of the entire trail. Those costs have gone up, but as the trail is built out primarily with 100% grant, there's flat seam belt. There will be added costs to maintain the trail that is needed to be included in the budget. The maintenance costs for 2025 are estimated to be $78,015. It is anticipated that by 2026, when the full length of the trail is built out and needing to be maintained, costs will begin to level out and tax requisition will be relatively stable at approximately $550,000, barring any unforeseen events. So the tax requisition for the rail corridor this year is an increase of 1.89%. There are some grants that are completed. There was this active transportation grant from Merit to Sicamous, which has been fully used. And then we're just in the process of finalizing the one from Lansdowne to Armstrong. And so these are just some of the costs for the rail trail. The big line item at the bottom, $100,000 would be the temporary trailhead for the Mara to portion. So these are the grants that have been received to date, and it identifies where the matching funds have come from. So the rural dividend grant for the development plan, that's the pink highlighted one, has been fully utilized as of December 31st, 2023. The rural dividend grant for the Trail Alliance has 41,603 remaining to be spent. It is included in the 5-year financial plan. The active transportation grant, it's the green one, Sidwins to Mara, was completely spent in December 2024. And the purple one, the active transportation Lansdowne Parks Run, is $147,000 carried forward to completion of 5-year financial plan. The Seminar Airport is based strictly on information in the city of Seminar. This bylaw specifies that the CSRD only pays for the operation and maintenance. There's no capital expenditure. Fuel sales account for the largest revenue line item. The city has noted that their airport management contract is up in June. And then with these three major maintenance projects that they'll be looking at in the coming year. This is the budget that was received from the city of Seminar. And so while our contribution for 2025 is $96,555, due to surpluses within the budget in the past, the operating reserve exceeds the CSRD policy for operating reserves. And therefore we were able to reduce the amount being collected for taxes towards this project or towards this function for 2025 to $76,162. In that case, the apportionment is the default under the Local Government Act, and the city portion amounts to $30,000.
Thank you, Jody. And I'm sure we have questions from council. Councillor Bailey.
Thanks, Jody, for being here. Really appreciate it. I just have a question on the rail trail and the cost. You said, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't have it in front of me, but that it would level out, the maintenance would level out to around 550,000.
Tax requisition.
The tax requisition, okay.
Anything unforeseen at what I'm projecting in the 5-year financial plan, the tax requisition will balance out around 555,000.
Of which Sycamoose then would be responsible for 30% of that.
That's correct.
Okay. So that's about 165,000. And then since I guess my other question to this is, it's a 6-year-old, agreement so far. Should this be something, and I'm not, well, actually, in terms of best practices, would this be something we should go sit down again and look at after it's 5 years old and see what those terms are? Is there any kind of standard that RD uses when it comes to some of these, agreements that they get reviewed or for them to get reviewed informally?
Through the mayor, the service established by services do not get reviewed on a regular basis. They went to the public or sent, and the public approved that apportionment, and so they don't generally get unless there's a service review requested,
Right.
or unless we need to increase the taxation. And that would be the only time that they do get reviewed. In this particular case, there's also borrowing that was approved at the time of public assent. And so I don't foresee a service review changing that percentage, at least on what went to the public.
Okay.
Just one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess where did, a follow-up question is, where did we start? Or if we're gonna end around somewhere around 165,000, when the previous council, I guess in 2017, went forward with the 30% for the rail trail, what was kind of the anticipated number in that year? Because kind of what I've heard from people is that it's a vastly different from where it started in 2017 and where it could potentially be now.
Through there. I don't actually recall what the number was in 2017, but it wasn't built yet. At the time that it was built, or at the time that it was acquired, the length of trail, it was communicated to the public that it would be dependent on grants. That's why it's still not built, is that we had to apply for grants. And now the biggest part of the grant, there's a $13 million grant that's being held by, or that was obtained by Splatson from the federal government. And right now there was a JC meeting the other day at Government's Advisory Committee, and there's some issues with the ALC.
Okay.
I know CAO McLean is listening in, and he may have something more to say about.
Thank you.
John, did you want to add anything to the ALC discussions?
Thank you, Your Worship. Jody covered it off pretty well. The ALC put a number of conditions on their conditional approval for the grant. And the partners, North Okanagan Regional District, Splatine, and ourselves are working with the ALC to ask them to review one of those conditions that is blocking us from proceeding at this time.
Thanks, John. And of course, I'm assuming that the longer the ALC blocks this, the more expensive this trail is going to get to build. Do they have any timeline on decision-making?
We have not been communicated any timelines. They have been having conversations that we were asked to provide some information. That information was provided in accordance with their timelines this morning, actually. So we're pushing on them to make a very timely decision so that we can either start building trail or we can continue on with our discussions with other forms of government.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bushell.
Yeah, through the chair. Thanks, Jody and John, for presenting today. Jody, could I get a copy of your presentation? Because some of those things I couldn't see on there. Okay, great. It was. I don't think it was, but anyways. Yeah, I mean, I could start on the rail trail. I had a couple of questions with the airport and stuff like that too. But on the rail trail, things have changed since we started this project. And, we all went into it thinking it was going to cost 8 million. And now the last budget was, pre-COVID was 22 or 23 million. And even I think if you look at the servicing establishment agreement, it's pretty much seems to be a little bit outdated as well. Just the reason being is that we've been funding this project. And I kind of heard you say that the funds for the Mara section from Sicamous to Mara has been used up. And we are under the indication that EOF fund that we used to get that grant was going to get us to 19K. Well, that's not going to happen. So, but if you look at some of the costs, and I'm going to go back to 2022 or 2023, we're paying, CSRD is paying way more money than the regional district of the North Okanagan. And we only have 10 kilometers or 9 kilometers in the CSRD, and they have 43 kilometers. And yet, like, just to give you an idea, the budget requisition in 2023 for RD&O was 321,000. That's between Spalmachine, Armstrong, Grinrod, Area D, Enderby, and Lumbee. You take a look at what we've been paying, and it seems to be higher. So I'm just wondering, is there an opportunity to look at the servicing establishment agreement as again? And just review because if you read the servicing establishment agreement, it says the funds that are brought in for our area is to be used in our area and not in another area. It can't be used outside the boundaries of the CSRD. So, and I just feel that it's very, very hard to establish where we are with the rail trail because we only see the CSRD portion. We don't, and I think the CSRD is doing all the finances for RDNO and the CSRD. Is that correct?
Do the majority of this.
Yeah, so it would be good to have a picture, an overall picture of everything instead of just only receiving the one side and not the other side. So I'm just wondering if that would ever be possible.
Can you clarify what it is? So you're looking for us to compare?
No, like an overall synopsis, review of what has been spent like on the rail trail with the CSRD and the North Okanagan Regional District. Because we only see normally CSRD stuff here. So we don't know what the total amount is.
I can work with my colleague at North Okanagan and see if we can get something together.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And with John on the line, I thought maybe, like I say, the whole picture's changed, the budget's changed, everything's changed. And even we used to sit on the board and now we don't have the board anymore. So we don't, I mean, the only time we get a chance is when Phil comes in or if you come in and give us a little update. Or, we do get the odd update in the emails, but not sitting on the board and being able to, steer this as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There was a decision made when we went into the more operational sense to refine the roundtable and to define down to the GAC being the two chairs and Kupke Christian. The full group does meet twice a year. That has been our practice and will continue to be so. There is always, as GM Pierce alluded in response to the first questions from the councillor, there is no built-in review provisions within this bylaw. That does not exist, but there will always be the provisions in the Local Government Act that allow for service review and renegotiations of terms. That's something that is outside of anything else that's in process. The board of directors, as this is a regional district service, they do receive the updates that we can have, and I'm very, very confident that the mayor shares them appropriately. And again, if there's more information that is desired, as GM Pierce said, we'll work to put it together and get it to everybody. This is a big project. It has been on the books since 2017. We are all fully aware that conditions in all of our worlds, in all of our expenditure levels have changed quite drastically over the past little while. And we're doing our level best to deliver this project as quickly as we can and as efficiently and cost effectively as we can.
Okay, thank you, Council. Anyone else have any questions? Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, just following up again, just on the rail trail, just because of the increasing kind of cost of it. And I wonder, I mean, it sounds like it is what it is, and there's been a whole bunch of increased costs. We have a servicing establishment bylaw that says that we'll pay 30%. I'm just wondering if going forward, there's a way that we can work together to minimize these costs and kind of the escalations of it. I mean, 160, it'll be about 165,000 for Sycamoose. We're obviously a pretty small community. That's a lot of money for us, right? I don't think that was maybe thought about maybe 6 years ago. That wasn't envisioned. And I think just going forward, I just have some concerns that that's a lot of money for us to take on. Obviously, it's an important project, don't get me wrong. I think everybody's looking forward to it being completed and us having connectivity through the town when the new bridge gets completed. But the costs are, I mean, we'd be lying if we didn't say that people weren't talking about it and they were talking about the costs and the amount of where we are. So I'm wondering if there's just some sort of mechanism, whether it's informal or other, that we could take a look at. Is there an opportunity to take what you think might be 550,000 and find savings in that, which would then obviously flow through to the funding partners? Just something to think about going forward.
Madam Mayor, thank you, Councillor. We take your comments to heart. We are all concerned about this, and I can assure you that there are members at the board table that share that very, very concern, and the partners are aware. As we move forward this project, we will absolutely look for every opportunity we can to drive that ongoing maintenance cost, that is what you're talking about there, as low as we can. We are hopeful that the fundraising campaigns will be that much more successful when we can actually market a open and active rail trail that connects the Shuswap with the Okanagan. We see great benefits in that, and look to our partners in the south and the successes that they've had as that trail continues on its way. You are on very firm ground that we are committed to looking for those and to see what we can do about being the most effective we can with the taxpayer dollar.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, CEO McLean. Councillor Rich.
Through the chair, thank you for coming. Appreciate the presentation. It's very clear. I'm wondering if, so Sycamus pays 30% and I don't have the service agreement in front of me. Is there a cap on, obviously there's not a cap on the 30%, but is it 30%? Like we're looking at 165 possibly, and hopefully it levels out. But is there, if it doesn't, is there a cap where it just says, okay, up to $250,000 a year or something like that? Or that number can just continue to increase until?
Through the chair, the bylaw does have a maximum rate in it. I believe it's 6 cents per thousand of all of the combined total of all of the participants. So you have to look at the assessed value for salmon arms, Sycamus areas C, D, E, F, G, and then essentially multiply that by 6 cents, divided by $1,000, and that will give you your maximum tax rate. I can do that math when I get back to the office. Actually, I've already done it. It's on a master spreadsheet that I have, and I can provide that to you, but we're a ways away from the maximum tax rate.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it would be nice to see it. And that's the, sounds like a lot of work for me. So it would be great if you had it already. Appreciate it.
Let's go to Councillor Bushel and then Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, thank you, John, for that comment. And it's just not, I mean, I'm 100% on board for the rail trail. I love the rail trail. I walk it quite a bit, and I know it's closed, but everybody's walking it and everybody.
Might as well take the signs down.
But just, I just think that it 30% for Sycamus is a lot of money. And I just got some numbers from 2002 and 2003 is, we have a population of 2,600 people. And in 2022, we paid 63,000, and like Inderby paid 34,000, or Armstrong paid 64,000, and they have like 5,300 people. So, and then we move up to 2023, we paid 74,000, Inderby paid 36,000, and Armstrong paid 67,000. So we're 30% for Sycamus of a population of 2,600 people. As though it's a big nut.
Madam Chair, or Madam Mayor, if I might.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll do a little digging for you, Councillor Bushel. I do believe that the North Okanagan structured their service differently than we did. I believe, and I stand to be corrected, that North Okanagan did it as a fully regional service. And like a regional park, a regional trail service, and everybody was participating. I'll confirm that for you and let you know. Here in Columbia Shuswap, I cannot speak to what happened in 2017 when those discussions were taking place. But the model that was adopted and represents what we're doing today was negotiated and agreed to by the players at that time. So I do think that there was just there is a difference in structure, and I'll do a little digging and I'll report back and share that information with CAO Strachan, and he can share it out with council.
Yeah, thank you, John. Really appreciate it.
No worries, sir.
Jody, did you want to add something to that? That's it? Hey, thank you. Councillor Bailey, then Councillor Beach.
Yeah, thank you very much for those thoughtful comments. I appreciate it. I just think it's, the more we can do all that we can to keep those numbers down, I think the community appreciates it and people want to support the project. Just something else I wanted to touch on a little bit, because I think it is a bit of a mystery to a lot of people, because it's not really a sexy item, but you touched on it, Jody, and it was around landfill closures. And that's a really big, important number of 55 million, and the costs that everybody around the entire region will have a role in carrying. And I'm just wondering, you highlighted a very serious deficit in terms of what's in reserve versus what the cost is. I wonder if you can just expand on that a little bit more, and what the plan is for the next, I don't know, is it 5 or 10 years? Just fill it in a little bit more, because I think the public does need to start getting an understanding around the costs.
And so, through the chair, your worship, there's going to be some more information coming from our general manager, environmental and utilities, after this last round of budget. But essentially what it was we have been unable to successfully get money into that solid waste payment reserve. And then 2 years ago, the staff went to the board, and the board supported a dedicated tax. Up until last year, there had never been taxation in the solid waste. And so we implemented this. And so the plan was going to be 300 last year, 600 this year, 900 next year, 1.2, and then 1.5. And then from there, it would sort of level off. And so we need to show that we are doing our part to look at now that 55 million, it sounds big and scary, but we don't need that whole 55 million today, right? What we need over the course of the next, 180 or 180 to 100 years is 55 million in today's dollars.
Okay.
Right? So, by the time we get to closing a landfill in, 2080, it might be 8 or 10 or $15 million. So we'll need to have that in reserve, because we're not allowed under the Local Government Act to borrow for the closure of a landfill. And so when we close a landfill, we have post-closure monitoring. We have to monitor that site for 100 years after the closure of it. And so GM Van Ostrand and his team are working very hard to phase all of our existing landfills, because when it comes to, say, 2080 and we have to actually physically close one, then we have the whole problem of re-siting a landfill.
Right.
Right, which becomes a whole exercise in my backyard. So, he and his team are investigating technology where it exists and trying to make best use. Recyclables and composting programs to create that airspace, which is the biggest asset in solid waste landfills. But we do have to have the money in reserve to close these phases. And so 2026 is the next anticipated phase closure. I think it's about 2.7 million, and we don't have 2.7 million right now. And so GM Van Ostrand and his team will be coming back to the City Board at a committee of the whole later this summer and exploring perhaps looking at increasing tipping fees or adding a specific surcharge. So every time somebody goes to the dump, maybe, 10% of that or, 5% or $5 or $20, into a dedicated closure reserve at that time. And so those are options that he and his team will be looking at, but it is something that we as an organization have to, really be talking about so that you as politicians can make those policy decisions and allow us to meet our obligations in the future.
Awesome, thank you. I think that's really a great explanation of it because a lot of people don't really know what it means. And so just to follow up on the key part that you said, the 55 million is envisioned over 50, 75 years, up to 100 years. And it's used incrementally as you come into these phase closures that you said that one is coming up in 2026. So that's kind of the vision for it. It's not going to be all at once, but it's something that we obviously have to start accounting for that where we didn't before.
Up to 6 or 7, and then it'll go back down to
Right.
3, and then we'll build up to 4 or 5, and then back down to 2, and then build up to 10, and then back down to 7 as we move forward.
As you do the phased, yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. I think that was really helpful.
Thanks. Councillor Beach.
Thank you through the chair. Jody and John, it's great to have you here to explain all this stuff. Not that I don't have tons of questions and have to study it extra anyways, but just wanted to make sure that I understood when you were talking about the 6 cents per thousand as a maximum rate that you're calculating on. That is we'd pay 30% of the 6 cents per thousand. And that's from the entire area's population. That's not just based on area E and Sycamoose. That,
You pay 30% of the tax requisition.
yeah,
So this year, the tax requisition, I think, was
78, yeah.
374, something like that. And so Sycamoose pays 30% of it. At that 6 cents per thousand, the maximum might be $1 million. Right? And Sycamoose would pay 30% of that.
okay. All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Okay. Bianca?
Just to answer one of the questions that was asked previously, because last year we did a bit of digging when this kind of became big one for us. We do have a webpage, or this was a news post, I guess, just answering some questions on the rail trail. This came out last spring. Just so John, you don't have to, we already did the research last year. So Ardia knows participants. It's not the entire area. We have the North Okanagan's linked on our website too. If anyone has any questions, and you just go on our Sycamoose website and search rail trail. This is, I think, the second thing that pops up. You can click on it and it just has what the breakdown was. This was, I think, based on their 2023. Yeah, so, and like Jody said, it's based on their converted assessment. That's how they did theirs. So these numbers change based on converted assessment every year. But so, yeah, it has Follow Machine, Armstrong, no Vernon in here, right? That would be a really big player in this. Vernon did not sign on to their service establishment bylaw. So that's readily available on our website. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Gord, is that what you're looking for?
No, I was, the actual numbers, like the totals, those have just percentages.
Okay.
Where John could
Okay,
probably,
so
or
John still needs to get back to you on that.
if he had the numbers, or Jody, yeah.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, just a couple things on the servicing establishment bylaws. I know we don't have one for general government admin cost allocation and IT and feasibility reserve. That feasibility reserve that we pay into, that you get a pot and that starts to grow. Can municipalities or areas draw on that for feasibility studies? Or how does that work?
Whenever the CSRD is looking at establishing a service.
Okay.
And so we have two different feasibility study funds, one that's contributed to only by the electoral areas and one that's the electoral and the municipalities. And so the one that Sycamoose pays into is that joint one. And so if it was for a service that would involve the CSRD, right? If it was a CSRD service that would involve Sycamoose as a participant, then we would access that to undertake things like the referendums or.
Okay, thanks, Jody. And then one other quick one on the reserves. I was going through all your reserves and everything. When you opt out of a reserve or out of a servicing establishment agreement, and there's still a pot there, like if we opt out of tourism or we opt out of ECDEV, that pot, what do you do with that money? Like, does it, if you don't start up a tourism business again, does that money get dispersed back to the municipalities, or does it, how does that work?
The board has asked us to suspend tourism and the film commission. There are still costs that are being incurred as we go through that process. There was a DVC grant, their year end runs March 31st. We have to finish that program off, get that reporting in. Once all of the costs have been determined from the suspension of that program. And so when I had a talk yesterday with the city of Salmon Arm, I was saying that don't be looking for any of that reserve funding back until later into the fall.
Yep, no, thank you very much, Jody.
But it does go back to the participants.
Thank you.
Was that the only one that you were concerned about, or is there another one you want to ask about? Because, yeah.
No, I think that's about it.
Okay, any more questions, council? Any recreations or questions? No?
Well, yeah, I just had one about the rec center in terms of, I know you touched on the roof replacement. And I just want to make sure that I understand this correctly. Was this year you're planning on doing a study, a feasibility study around that? Is that correct, or?
In order to apply for the Green Municipal Fund retrofit big grant,
Right.
You have to do this study part first. They have a grant, and I can't remember how much of it is funded through the Green Municipal Fund. I want to say 80% of it.
Obviously, yeah.
And so we're looking at doing a study for the 3 recreation facilities that's have that information so that we are better positioned.
And just so I'm clear, that study will, because you'll do it for your other facilities as well, but that will give us an indication on what is needed, what is required to, I guess, retrofit that into a stronger building. Correct.
In order to apply for the Green Municipal Fund. We've already done a reassessment on that building. And it's really the cost could be in the neighborhood of 2.5 to $3 million.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just trying to drive at, like, so, yeah, we know the there has to be something done there, certainly on the side. I'm trying to get to where will this study bring us? But is it to make the building kind of green, or is it just to do with the roof, or is it to look at the entire kind of functionality of the building and give us a roadmap? Or is it just one of these things that you have to do to apply for this grant? I guess I'm just, yeah. Okay, sorry about, okay.
Services are looking into that and would have to get an answer for you.
Yeah, that'd be nice, just because it sounds like it's the next kind of big step forward to getting to some of those larger pieces that we need to do on the arena. So
Thanks, Jody. That'd be great if you could do that for us. Councillor Bushel.
And one other thing on the rec center, Jody, and you probably, I mean, maybe it's for John or Derek, but the transfer from reserves to projects, we had the catwalk on there. Did the catwalk ever get done? I don't recall if the catwalk got done for the Outback, and then what's on the scope for this year? If you
Went through that.
Big projects.
System.
Is the downstairs office configurations, fitness center relocation, the retrofit project, trophy case, 2 dehumidifiers, and some heat cooling units, and then a couple of minor projects. I'm not sure on the catwalk. I can get an answer on that project as well.
yeah, because I remember us talking about it a couple of years ago, but I don't know if it's ever been done, so I wondered.
It's ringing a bell in my head, and so I think it's probably been done.
Okay, thank you.
No, Councillor Rich, do you have some clarifications, questions? No.
Good.
Everyone's good?
Yep.
Okay, Jody, thank you so much for being here today and answering our questions.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Bye.
Okay. We are going to go to Communities in Bloom Fungi Fest and Farmers Market up. Take it away.
Thanks, you guys. So I wanted to try and kill 3 birds with 1 stone because I'm not getting out here as much as I used to. And I figured it's a good time for an update on what our plans are in the coming year and kind of where we're at. So I will start with Communities in Bloom. And I have mentioned some of this to you before, so some of this is repeat, but I figure you haven't thought about it for a while, it's not a bad idea. So as I mentioned last fall, we're not going to get the judges in this year. It's an awful lot of work, and I just figured there were better ways to spend our time. But we are registering as a friend. I think Communities in Bloom has been a really good partner for us over the years, and we want to stick with them on that front. But also with the completion of the health center this year and the gardens around it, I would really like to make that our showcase submission. And we've got some, I know the banner guys are going to be coming in to see you, but they've done their Truth and Reconciliation theme for their banners, and we're going to do some of that around some artworks and such too. So really tying all that together, I think we'll make that in the showcase submission. And it gives us some good PR and kind of gets the word out there too, which is good. The last few years, we were part of Canada's Garden Route, and that organization is now defunct. I'm not sure why it is, but it is. But Catherine from Communities in Bloom suggested that we may want to be part of basically the BC version of that. And I always forget the Gardens BC, what the name of the organization is. And they have garden destinations, but what the situation is with that is we have no regional representation. It seems to be the island, the lower mainland, and northern BC. There's no Thompson, Okanagan regional garden region. So I was talking to Ellen Walkers-Matthews at TODA and saying, it would be really great if we had a regional representation. And then I would really like to see Sick Moose be part of that. So we can build on all the work we've been doing. And she was going to look into it and get back to me, and we're going to, I also was planning on contacting, because we have got some fairly good representation from other communities in our area, like Chase, Lumbee, Armstrong have all been part of Communities in Bloom. So I need to talk to my contacts here to maybe get them lobbying a bit. I think I've mentioned this to you guys before, but I think garden tourism could be a really good thing, and a lot of it could be great off-season opportunities too. So I'm continuing to converse with the CSRD about the Japanese internment camp, Memorial Gardens and Yard Creek. And I talked to somebody at the province last year, and he told me what their plans are for Yard Creek. So it was really kind of great because I've just been not able to get any answers out of anybody. And I guess keep in mind that I'm just speaking to my conversation with him. I am not the person on this. But the Malaqua Community Association has a contract for Yard Creek that ends at the end of this year, at which point the province is looking at upgrading that Yard Creek the campsite. And that could be a good opportunity to go in and do kind of some interpretive, whether it's an area or building, whatever, with regards to the Slatson history in the area, as well as Japanese internment camps. And I might even try and squeeze a little Bungee Fest stuff in there since, we've had a lot of stuff going on there. So anyway, he's agreed to keep me in contact and kind of on updates and stuff. So that was really nice to hear about. We are planning our community cleanup for April 26th. I know that it's the same weekend as the Backyard Ultra, but it happened last year and seemed to work out okay. So I would like to continue as part of my Communities in Bloom efforts to this whole idea of the activation of spaces and the farmers market and, doing some stuff with that site and that as well. And I have been talking to EVAC. They've been really good partners in a lot of stuff I've been doing. And in terms of this whole idea of almost an art and heritage district down there, we did that little map last year for the judges. It was kind of a rush job, but I think building on that could be really good. And Daryl and I are talking, we'll continue to help out whatever way we can with the community garden space too. So I'll maybe stop here for 2 seconds. Anybody have any questions on the Communities in Bloom stuff?
Thank you, Deb. Any questions on Community in Bloom? No, you're doing great. Keep going.
Okay, Sycamoose Farmers Market. So the Sycamoose Farmers Market is the winner of the 2024 BC Farmers Market, the best medium-sized market.
Yay.
I was a little surprised because when they were doing the awards announcements, everything was going to the island. And I was going, oh, yeah, there we don't have a chance. And then they announced us, so that was kind of cool. We're gonna get a banner. I gotta figure out where to put it. Very excited about that. I probably know just enough to be dangerous now since I didn't know anything last year. And so I'm really pushing to get some stuff done in advance. So I am almost 100% booked out on my market for this year for vendors.
Fantastic.
And
Wow.
I am pushing all of them. I would say I'm maybe 85% already paid up in advance.
Excellent.
So I'm looking for ways to make it a little bit less work for me because it was a bit of a nightmare last year. So the barbecue's being taken over by the Girl Guides as part of their fundraiser for their European tour. So I'm not going to be making my poor husband do that on Fridays. And yeah, so we've tripled the number of vendors. We're going to add a couple of markets this year. I'm pretty optimistic that we're going to, just keep building on that. So it's good. And we will be doing the Morel market in May again, because it went really well. So, build on that again. We're keeping the vendor fee low for maximum participation. We are definitely the lowest around. We are going to have, I'll look at building on that once I feel like we've established our, street credibility in that area. We have funding of $5,000 so far for 2,000 for seniors meals, 2,000 for the school food box program, like a variation of that in the summer, and another 1,000 for the resource center food bank. I've been talking to the resource center about how we can capture more of the nutrition coupon program money, which last year was 9,000 came into Sycamoose and only 2,000 was spent at our market. We're doing some things a bit differently this year so that we expect to capture more of that. With the caveat that program funding has not been approved yet for the province, but I think they're optimistic they're going to get that. So if we can get notionally around $14,000 coming into low-income families and sick moves for free, basically free produce and meat and certain things. It's like great. And if we can actually get that to our farmers that are in our market, then I don't think we'll ever have a problem getting farmers in our market again, because historically that's been a problem. So we've actually talked to a couple other farmers that are going to be coming too. So it's
Awesome.
it's going well. Any questions about the farmers market?
Council Rich.
Yeah, again, I just want to say thank you, or through the chair. Thank you, Deb. This is crazy. And I talked to Deb yesterday and a buddy of mine runs the Qualicum Farmers Market, which is one of the best ones in Canada, I would say. And she phoned me up and she was like, look at you guys go. That's crazy. So just incredible what you've done in a year, and looking forward to spending more money on Fridays.
You know what, it would be harder for them to get to San Bernard too, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, like as much of a pain as that is, it's like, you know, let's take advantage of the opportunities. Okay.
One sec. Councillor Bailey.
I really like the competitive spirit. That's great. I really love that. Yeah. No, I mean,
Trash talking your community.
yeah, exactly. No. Elbows up, right? No, it is incredible what you did in a year, and that, I mean, having a reward after, you know, the first year is pretty incredible. So I just want to tip my hat to you. I think it was a pretty dramatic difference last year that everyone saw, and that's incredible. That's because of your incredible work and everybody else that had a hand in it. So thanks very much. It certainly created a nice vibe down there. And yeah, look forward to it more. I can never, ever get to it up Friday night because I'm busy. But, you know, I'm going to try this year. I'm definitely going to try. Thank you.
Me too. Did you have your hand there? Okay. Hey, carry on.
Hey, Fungi Festival, so this one's quick, we're still a little ways away, it's not till September. But it, you know, like, I think you guys know, I was committed to keeping the Fungi Festival going because somebody else will take it on. And at 20th anniversary, and I've been doing this for 10 freaking years, I don't know how that happened.
All right.
I really thought I was gonna be able to, you know, pass that one off. But yeah, some things you're stuck with. So, but it is our 20th anniversary. We're looking at ways we can build it up again. With the funding, so we had $2,000 for event management, which meant that I could spend it without choking on Eventbrite, and we've actually already got I think about, you know, like at this stage of the game, which is pretty early, I think about $2,500 in ticket sales for long walks and things for the farmers market, Fungi Festival already. So it's going well. I expect that we will sell out like usual. I'm hoping we can build on some of the other things in the farmers market where the ticket sales have been down a little bit more. And again, it'll just make my life a lot easier that weekend because it is a lot managing all of it manually. So having that just all done in advance will make things a lot easier for me. We talked to the library and we're actually going to do one of the presentations at the library. Our expert's going to come over and do it there on the Friday nights so that we've always encouraged the school, the kids and that to come out. But I think, I don't know, there's just, I get scared walking through the door or whatever, but it's gonna be at the library, so that'll be good. And where I met with Mike Milmore this morning and we're talking about partnership opportunities in terms of how we can expand on the festival going forward. And I think it's gonna be kind of an exciting year in St. Louis this year. But it is a little tricky because some of the areas that the guys who typically go to in town are a little disrupted with construction and stuff right now. So we're doing a little bit of plan B, but it looks like it's gonna work out. So it's hopefully.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you for all that you do, for sure. I echo council and our community. You are so appreciated and we do, yeah. Thank you, a big thank you. Council, any more questions? And I'm glad to hear that you're working with Mike and looking at, and Carly, and looking at expanding the event. So that's great to hear too. And I echo you. You know what? It is exciting in Sycamus right now and there is a lot going on and we have a lot of stuff that, that's coming down the pipe and coming to fruition. So yay, Sycamoose. And thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Okay, wow, there we are. We're at mayor and council. Whoa, where did Cal go? Okay, let's start with Councillor Evans.
Much to report right now. It's 4 weeks ahead with different meetings and then not at just over a month, month and a bit, we're at Silga, so. Yeah.
Perfect. Councillor Rich.
Through the chair. Just got to attend the Eagles games and that was great fun. And been selling tickets like crazy for the grads. Got 20 left. Call me.
No hints being dropped there. There's 20 left. Don't step up. Thanks, Councillor Rich. Councillor Bushel.
Through the chair, I attended some Eagles games in the past few weeks here, and I just wanted to say thank you to the Eagles team, you know, Sheila and their group, their board of directors, and the Eagles and all the volunteers, because they do a great job over there, and I couldn't believe how many people were at the last game that they played in town, and unfortunately they didn't make the playoffs, but anyways, there's always next year and they'll have building plans for next year. So that was really good. Yeah, I know I met with Carly. She had a tough time getting the last MRDT person signed up at the Best Western. So went and talked to the owner and yeah, I was able to get them on side. So I guess she got everybody. So that's good. And then other than that, just developer calls, fielding lots of developer calls lately, sending them to Dean, getting great response back from the developers. Dean, they really appreciate your help, Dean, and doing a great job. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor McCabe, do you have anything? Or
No, I don't have anything to report, but
those
thank you
tequila
for the
shots?
opportunity.
Okay. Councillor Bailey.
I wonder if he says thank you for that opportunity, if he actually does mean that. Sorry. No, just some meetings on development, and I also want to echo what Gord said about Dean, and it's really nice to have you here in that level of expertise that I think will help the town move forward and help us, just improve on the great job that we're already doing. That level of expertise, I think, is most welcomed and welcome. And actually, I should just point out, because we just had a meeting the other day and you pointed out that you've been here 1 month. So it's Dean's 1 month anniversary. Yeah. And that's it. And unfortunately, I was out of town for the Eagles hockey team last games, but heard it's wonderful. We're always so happy as a business to continue to support them, and the entire town just gets energized every single year. And I'm amazed that it builds almost every single year. Like you think this year's, wow, what a great year. And then next year they even top it. So I think there's nothing but great things for that team, and certainly them taking over the Eagles nest and partnering there with council on that, I think is sky's the limit for this team. So congratulations, everyone.
Councillor Beach.
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, I think my thing would be to center on the fact that I was on a Shuswap Watershed Council meeting and heard some pretty positive stuff, I thought, talking about the fact that the checkpoint stations are starting to see quite a significant increase in stoppage, like people bringing their boats and trailers through. They felt that was positive, that the education was starting to get out there and that people were making an effort to be checked, which is encouraging. But there was mention of the need to make it the stations open 24/7 so that we're not missing, that people are not having to travel at times when they can't go through the checkpoints. So that was brought up, and I did say that we were working on a resolution to that effect. Yeah, so just I think a lot of consensus and concern still about making sure that we get enough funding to put in more checkpoints more check stations and also replace retiring canine sniffers for the muscles as well. So that was talked about as well. So that was on last Wednesday that I zoomed in on that.
Excellent, thank you. I'm just kind of looking at my agenda, my calendar here. Dean and I met with Chris Pines, we had a Zoom meeting with Chris Pines from Interior Health. Discussing our Sycamoose Health Center and our goal of having a lab in there. So it doesn't make, for us, it didn't make sense to have a lab at the mall and have a, $9 million facility here without those two being combined and making it simpler and easier for our seniors to walk just down the hall to get a blood, to get lab work done rather than waiting for the lab here to open or driving to Salmon Arm, which is getting to be more and more complicated and difficult for them. So we did have a meeting with Chris and Chris said, okay, he didn't say, okay, don't, he didn't say yes. He said, okay, I'm gonna make a stop in Sycamoose. I'll schedule for a site visit. He did indicate that the IH's money was already allocated for other things this year. So 2 days later, happy news, positive news, moving forward, Life Labs called and obviously got, a call. So they're coming in to have a look at the facility, having a tour. So that is something that's been sitting quiet. It went dark for a long time, but I had, put some reasons together why we should be talking to Chris, and those seem to have moved forward and turned into the Minister of Rural Development also 2 days later called us, and Dean and I are going to be meeting with him soon, and because it's the end of their financial fiscal, there might have some spare cash that we might be able to ask for, because that lab, for anyone putting a lab in there, it's going to cost a lot of money. So that was a big positive, outcome from that. So hopefully, fingers crossed that we're moving in the right direction there. I also met with one of our business owners, developers, and DFO on some channel property, and the property is moving forward, but I'm saddened with the province and their response to everything that anyone wants to do. And the amount of red tape that the province has and the roadblocks that they throw in the way of everyone that wants to move forward. And I feel like SILGA, UBCM, and FCM, for us to move forward, I really think we need to take our stories to those conferences and be really loud. And I really think that when we get into resolutions, and as we're listening to other people's resolutions, because we're taking a resolution that is asking the province to expedite Section 11s and expedite land tenure, because it's been sitting for years now and no one wants to renew a land tenure or a water tenure. I think that we need to be really loud. This has been going on since 2019, some of the tenure stuff that I've been reading up on. So we need to get and I'm asking staff, maybe as soon as we get the resolutions that are going to be presented at SILGA, which we will get a list prior to SILGA, that perhaps we can all go over it as well, and staff as well. And things that pertain to us, we need to pick up and go support it at the mic too. We need to have our voices heard. We need to speak up for our community. Not only is it really complicated in the province, it's really complicated in the country. So the least we can do is fight for our businesses a little bit harder and fight for our community and stop the downloading and make sure that we're heard loud and clear and start to change some direction if we need to be even louder than that. So just a heads up on that. I went to the Eagles game, and yes, I mean, we should all be so proud of the Eagles, and we should be super proud of minor hockey. Like, two more teams probably next year moving forward. So, you know, that group is growing and doing so well, and they won the provincials the other day or last weekend. So, you know, another group of, you know, young athletes that are growing up in our community and doing really well. I met with a hotelier yesterday with ECDev, looking at a couple pieces of property. As everyone knows here, in the last 12 years that I've been sitting at this board, in this boardroom, it's been a Lakeside Hotel has been in my sights. So hopefully at some point in time before too long, we will see a Lakeside Hotel here in Sycamoose. I met with the CSRD, had a board meeting or a cow meeting a couple weeks ago. And they gave a rail trail update, and they also updated on the ALC. Having not approving, they've got some landowners and ALC are kind of trying to figure some stuff out, which is, I'm hoping that they come to some sort of agreement soon, because as I said, the longer this rail trail goes on, the more money it's gonna cost taxpayers, because every year we see it growing. And now we're not looking at starting or opening the rail trail up till 2026. So I find it hard to wrap my head around trains to sneakers, but that's just the way the Land Commission works. I also had a meeting with the CSRD Director Martin regarding the operation of the rec center. We've asked for a service, the district of Sycamoose has asked for a service review. So the first part of this review happened last week. And I met with Director Martin and the CSRD CAO McLean, as well as Jody and Bianca and Dean, and to see next steps. That meeting was to clarify, because that's how bureaucracy works. That meeting was to clarify exactly what we wanted. So we exactly said we would like to see, our community would like to see the District of Sycamoose operating the recreation center. It's an asset in our community and Area E, and it would be more beneficial to our community in Area E as well if we had the operations here in Sycamoose. We'd have control. We could use the recreation center more. We could keep it open longer. There could be a financial component as far as renting it out to other users. There was, you know, a whole list of things. Our community, I asked staff to pull numbers of kids. Our kids' numbers are just growing every year. So there's more users. So there's more of a need here. And you can't run it off the corner of a desk in the CSRD and expect it to get booked in, you know, a day or two if there's a space. That just doesn't happen. However, if we kept it local, a day or two, that space could be booked and used. So we are 90 days, is it 90 days? That we have to put together a proposal and have it ready to present, which staff is gonna work on that. And Area E has to come back and CSRD and share why they do or do not agree of, you know, with what we're gonna put forward. So, yeah, so that's been, on my radar. So, and I'm not saying, and I don't want anyone to get this wrong. I don't think it's gonna be easy operating a rec center if it's CSRD or the District of Sycamoose. I don't think it's an easy job, because people are always gonna want time, deals, favors, like there's always gonna be, you know, that component. So I don't think it's gonna be any easier, but at least it'll be our pain that we know we're having. And I think that is just about it for me. So what we're gonna do now is open it up to the gallery for any questions. Do we have anyone in the gallery or online that has any questions? Brian, did I see you put up your hand? Yeah, I knew. I was just messing with you. Hampton, anyone? Oh. Okay, then we are going to call the, actually, can we go in camera now? Do we? Oh, no, we'll just end the cow. We're going to adjourn the cow meeting at 2:20 on March the 12th. Could I get a mover? Counselor Evans, Counselor Rich, all in favor? And thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Thanks, Deb.
Anybody need tickets?